We are
We're
now
live.
on webinar for the
Mhm.
first question. And got to get our technical aspects set up here. Just take a moment. And I'm going to introduce myself. Hello, my name is David Tresemer. I have a Ph.D. in psychology and am on the faculty of the Association for Anthroposophic Psychology. And I'd like to introduce Christine Huston. Christine, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hello, everybody. I'm Christine Huston. I'm a life coach living in Pennsylvania. I'm a graduate of the 3-year certificate program from the Association for Anthroposophic Psychology.
Excellent. So for the people on the call, there will be a time after our presentation where you'll be able to ask questions. At the bottom of your screen, you'll see a Q&A. You can type into that your question. You can wait till the end of our presentation, which should be about 20 minutes or so, and note your questions. You can write them down and then ask them. We have a few purposes for this webinar. The very most important purpose is to get you excited about being a human being on the planet. That's actually the most. Secondarily, to assist you to some degree as a counselor with others, to some small degree, because there are limits to technology. And the third one is to tell you about our programs coming up for the Association for Anthroposophic Psychology. It might be for you. It might be for someone whom you know. The link for this particular webinar will be made available through our website so that you can actually watch it again or send the link to other people. Christine, do you have any introductory comments that you'd like to make?
Nope, I think it's time to get moving.
I know, because I know you have things that I know are going to come up. So I'm going to go to our webinar then. Good. Excellent. All right. We formulated this idea of the first question. The first question and the last in your life, and to make sure that you know that this is a redo of a previous version and it's gotten better. So it's possible there's some people on this list who saw the previous version. You will see some big changes. This comes from the Association for Anthroposophic Psychology. That we will explain those terms later on in this webinar. I'd like to emphasize that we're talking about 4 beliefs that we share about why do we do this kind of thing. And I'd like to, Christine and I would like to share these. I'll read the first one. We believe that humanity has a purpose, furthered through the daily lives and maturing of every human individual.
We believe that human beings grow most through relationship with each other. We help each other grow, even through suffering.
We believe that life on this planet is rare in all the heavens. That's so important. And is a treasure chest of opportunities that we can teach each other how to use. One depiction of this, the beauty of our planet, this is an artist's picture of his impression of the being of Sophia, a conscious, divine, feminine being. We'll go into how this works with materialistic science, actually a little later in this webinar. And yet to take this in as an artistic understanding of the truth of the rarity and beauty of this planet.
We believe in the importance of body, soul, and spirit. Though materialistic science has tried to murder these, each person has experiences that prove that such powers exist and are active.
We could talk about each of these in great detail, and we'd love doing that because it really relates to, well, why are you here? However, on we go. So the question becomes, in relation to that, how do you bridge between the DSM, the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, version number 5. This is the international reference shared by government agencies, non-governmental agencies, insurance companies, psychologists, medical doctors, the pharmaceutical industry. This is it, this 1,000-page manual. And very useful, and we touch upon this in the course. How do you bridge between the DSM and Steiner's writings? Here's one sample, a book of Steiner lectures, A Psychology of Body, Soul, and Spirit. We come in the middle to bridge those, not to be only on the right, not to be only on the left. Here's one of our books, The Counselor, As If Soul and Spirit Matter. Bridging mainstream psychology, mainstream counseling techniques and understandings, as well as more soul and spiritual understanding. So back to the first question. The first question asked by every person, a question that we all share, a question that drives people to a counselor for help. And let's be clear, a counselor can be an aunt or an uncle, a licensed counseling psychologist, a life coach, a police officer, a lawyer, a friend. The first question asked by every person is, who am I? And this is a question asked by clients and by counselors too. A reasonable response to who am I? I am a physical body. You look at, on the left, we have depiction by Vesalius, I think it was 17th century. It was great. Vesalius, his anatomical descriptions of the makeup of the human body. And on the right, we have a map of the arterial system of the human body. So these are physical structures that one can point to. If you're in a group of people and you say, okay, this is a group of physical bodies standing for a photograph, and you say, oh yeah, that's me, that's my physical body. And I am a physical body. In the realm that when we look at the 4 elements, we think of the physical as what we share with the mineral world. Or you could say, I'm more than a physical body. I am my energy body, my vitality, my life. I am an energy body, which is traditionally called the etheric body. I'm not going to go into terminology in this webinar. We can do that another time. That's actually really helpful. So here's a picture of grass showing the vibrancy of the plant world. The etheric level is what we share with the plant world. So we have here a depiction of Vesalius's view of the physical body on the left, and on the right we have many measures of the etheric or life force moving through the physical body, just to give you a wonderful contrast. But what if you say, no, I'm more than that physical body moving about. I'm my thoughts, my feelings, my imagination, my deeds. This is traditionally called the astral body. Now watch this next piece, for example, and all the people in it with this notion that there's a physicality, there's a movement going through, and then there is the life of imaginations, of thoughts, of feelings, of desires, of passions.
Thank you very much. And on that particular...
So you look at these people depicted and you could say, well, some people would be able to say, oh, I am that person. I am that person on the right or in the middle or on the left. And others would be able to say, oh, I understand that person. They have a physicality, a movement quality, a vitality, as well as they are running through pictures of what we call the astral body. The astral body is what we have in common with animals, more lower developed astral body in animals and a more refined in human beings. That's an astral body that we share. We can think of the astral body also with other names are given to the astral body: character, eccentricities, quirks, personality, style, ego, which is an ambiguous term, and one we try to steer away from because it has so many interpretations of what that means. But we're talking about the astral body. I am what I think. I am what I feel. I am what I do. And we can see different qualities of our emotions coming through. These are 6 different facial expressions showing different qualities that stream through the astral body. But what gives all this activity in physical, etheric, and astral? What gives it meaning? It's the 4th body, the I, or I am. The aspect that can say,
I am. I exist. I am present this moment, present to my body, my soul, and my spirit.
that is something that is a body that only exists for human beings. And if we're honest with ourselves, only for part of each day. We call our waking life the one where the I am streams through. But if you're honest, you're running on automatic, or your I is not very present, not conscious, not awakened for large portions of the day, but you know it, and you can awaken it at any moment. The I am is something that is unique to human beings. Here's a depiction of this level of the human being at the bottom on earth, working up through soul and into spirit. And it's important, it really is so helpful in anthroposophic psychology that we can open to that level. So the fourth body, the I or I am, this is the body through which meaning comes, a sense of purpose, destiny, not only in one's own life, but in all creation. And people do strange things when they feel really called by their destiny and their purpose. They create ceremonies that have no rational or logical sense. They seem to be time and money wasters, but they are essential to human beings' sense of their I am coming into the world, accomplishing something brilliant. I show this group, this is a group from Northern Australia. There's another photograph there with me all painted up, joining in with them, because I did join in with them, but I didn't want to show off on this one. Let me just, that's not the point. The point is that this was a very meaningful ceremonial activity. Every stripe of ochre, which is a natural paint coming from clay deposits, every stripe of that was chosen and placed on purpose. All right. We have very briefly set out a complicated structure of the human being, all in the small print in the base, in the middle of this image. And I'm not going to actually go into the details here. However, except for this moment to point out, when you perceive the human being in this way with these four bodies, you immediately have to go above to, well, what is transhuman in the spirit, in the cosmos, where there is an experience of oneness and of what some traditions would call the God-realized self. And it actually goes into the earth as well. The earth and all her elements. Sophia, the living being of the earth. We'll come back to Sophia. When you go above human experience, and when you go below human experience, you really see what embraces and supports humanity. You open to the possibility of spiritual beings. Spiritual beings, I love this topic. We're not going to go into it this time. I'm tempted to do it another webinar, see if we can handle it via technology rather than in person. Spiritual beings, both in the cosmos and deep in the earth, in the tiny interstices of creation. And now I give a warning. The warning is that the materialistic scientist claims that the only aspect that actually exists is the physical body. All that other stuff is wiped away. Though that prejudice is unraveling under the weight of modern scientific observations. We don't have time to share those, but they're becoming more frequent. Even using the methods of the scientific methods for research and understanding what things have impacts, where there are illusions about correlation, for example. Even using modern scientific methods, this prejudice against other than the physical body, against other than chemicals and genes, is becoming unraveled. All right. Back to the Association for Anthroposophic Psychology, AAP. We begin with, in this word, in the middle word is Sophia, the living earth, the wisdom of creation, the divine feminine. Anthropos, also in that middle word, the possible and becoming human being. So you have Anthropos, Sophia, Anthroposophic, based on anthroposophy, taking inspiration from the philosophy of Rudolf Steiner, whom we mentioned earlier, one of his books of lectures, which we take as our foundation and jumping off point for the work that we do in AAP. Further on in these names, we have psyche, the conscious part of the human being between heaven and earth, psyche, Greek word for soul, logos, lawful pattern. Thus, you have anthroposophic psychology. When you learn the syllables and what they mean, you come to love them. So what? So what? Why create such a huge rubric for what the human being is? Why not just get simple and just start taking drugs? In an encounter with someone who cares, the counselor might say, well, this is a physical body that needs chemicals to remove the tangles in her life. And the client basically is asking this question: who am I? Looking for guidance in that respect. However, a counselor can change her or his point of view to say, this human being that I'm being with right now has a body and a spirit mediated by an active soul. I'm going to pause midstream here because Christine would like to add something at this point.
Thank you, David. Well, I would love to take a leisurely walk with all of you through this fourfold picture and share with you in more detail how I work with a client. However, we do want to be careful about our time here. So I confess right up front, this is going to be an ice skate through the fourfold. And I'd like to talk about a client that I have been working with for some time, and I'm just going to call her Kathy. And I just want to talk about those four aspects really, really briefly, just as a little taster for you, so that hopefully you'll say, oh, I want to know more. So Kathy comes to me, and I want to look at her through this fourfold lens because it's a very helpful lens. So she comes in, and I am thinking about the physical, which first of all, I want to create a warm relational atmosphere for Kathy. Kathy has a lot of trauma from her early life. She comes in with a lot of anxiety to my meetings, and I just want to be sure that she's really feeling held. So I pay attention to how much warmth is in the room. I pay attention to whether or not she needs a cup of hot tea, and I often will give it to her. I will help her calm down and release some of her anxiety by having the essential oil of lavender in the room so she can really feel welcome. And I ask her about her pain. Is she actually feeling any physical discomfort? And early on she said yes. She had a lot of pain in her shoulder, and she was really angry at her shoulder for not getting better despite several treatments. That was a lot to work with right there. Thinking about her etheric. What do I do as I'm meeting a client thinking about the etheric? Well, one thing I do is I start with a visualization. And I worked with Kathy, walking her through a visualization that would help her breathing calm down, to help her heartbeat calm down, to bring her into the room from all the busyness of her life as she raced through the door to come to the appointment, and also to put her in relationship to me. And that's the etheric part of it, the little bit I can share right now. And then to do with astrality, which is the next of these realms that David was describing. This is an amazing thing to walk into because it's all of our personality, it's all of our likes and our dislikes, and the biggie, it's our feeling life. And people walk in and they are feeling, and they're caught up in their feelings, and they feel like all they are is feelings. So I listen with great respect to their feelings. I acknowledge their feelings, and then I ask the question of them, would you please consider this? Consider that you have feelings, but you are not just your feelings. Feelings are important. They give us lots of information about the world, but we are not just our feelings. So then Kathy in the past has said to me when I sprang this on her, well then who am I if I'm not my feelings? Who am I? Which is a glorious question to ask. Here we are. Who am I? What is this I, this capital letter I? Who is this who is dressed up walking through life as Kathy this time? Who has lessons to learn? Does she have a purpose? Who is this Kathy? So I was helping her disentangle herself from her feeling life and be able to look at the events of her life, the experiences of her life from a higher place. She's not just living in the astral realm, overcome with her feelings. So this is a tremendous gift to people if you can help give them this picture of 4 different aspects to the human being. For one thing, it takes them out of the role of being a victim. They can start to look at what's happened to them in their lives. And they can, begin to unravel all of these tangles, as David spoke about them, toward healing and toward freedom. So that's why I have found this one concept out of anthroposophic psychology, and there are many concepts and tools to use. I have found this one to be tremendously helpful for people because they can immediately begin to work with this picture, and it gives them a whole other understanding of who they are. So thank you, David, for letting me share that.
Thank you, Christine. Part of what Christine is saying is that we're working in this particular webinar talking about a 4-fold look at human beings: physical, etheric, astral, and the I. In anthroposophic psychology, we also have a 3-fold way of looking at things, and a 7-fold, and a 12-fold. And the point is that within each of these structures, we can actually explain everything, or nearly everything. And they are not nested within each other. obviously, in an obvious manner. So it is really, you go into a world which can be seen as fourfold in nature. Or you go into a world that's threefold or sevenfold or 12-fold. Sevenfold's way too complicated for a webinar. We could talk about aspects of it at some stage. In between the seminars that we do, we actually have webinars where we can talk about some conceptual aspects. But you need to comprehend these things, especially when you're talking about soul and spirit. You need this face-to-face encounter with another human being, which is, shall we go back to our face-to-face example?
I just want to, can I say one more thing, which is simply to say that all that you've just described is the basis of a wonderful owner's manual for what it is to be a human being. Very, very helpful owner's manual. Right.
And the oddity of the human owner's manual is that it has to be, it can't be written down. What's written down is only part of it. It can only be actually learned through relationship with other human beings.
Right.
It's amazing. Otherwise, we'd be incubated and reared as children in computers, in robots. And it just isn't going to work. Hasn't worked, isn't going to work. I'm going to go back to the shared screen now. Let's see which one. Here it is. Great. Okay. Back to the client and the counselor. So we talked about the counselor making this big shift that Christine demonstrated. That here I'm talking not to a physical structure which has chemistry moving, but to a human being that has a body and a spirit mediated by an active soul. And realizing that some of those tangles may have treasures rather than just trying to get rid of them. And what the client experiences then is, this is so key, I feel that she is beginning to see me. And that is, there are excellent studies showing that the quality of relationship is far more important than any style you use, whether it's CBT or DBT or REBT or any of those, or psychodynamic or Jungian, or the quality of the relationship is much more important to what people describe as relief, because in the quality of relationship is nested is meaning, because it's the recognition of the I am of the other. All right. And then the counselor can say, I too have body, soul, and spirit. We've structured this. You can see this as a diagram. You have, actually there's threefold and fourfold here, right? On the left is spirit, soul, body. That's threefold. We also have I am, astral, etheric bodies, physical body. That's fourfold. They are nested here. When we have a counselor on the left and a client on the right, you see how complicated it is. Therapy cannot be delivered through a handbook or any kind of certainty, because you're dealing with this interplay of complexity between the encounters between any two human beings. And I here show a version of that from actually a DVD that my wife created, Leela Sophia Tresemer, and to show how people interconnect, especially at this one, at spiritual levels. And this is going on with every encounter that you have. All right, to review, this is making it very sparse and conceptual and schematic. We've reviewed the green arrow, which is spirit, soul, and body. And then the four bodies within that: physical body, astral, etheric body, astral body, and I am. And then nested within cosmos above and Sophia, the divine feminine, earth and her elements below. We have trainings in Anthroposophic Psychology described at www, and you know you're just going to love these. Spelling is not going to be hard for you from now on, because you know where these come from. Anthroposophic.psychology.org. This webinar will be cited there, along with there are many helpful, honest, and short videos that we've made in the 2-minute realm. and because people really go for that. Brief. Here's just another version of the same thing. And now I'm going to ask Christine just to say a little bit about our program.
Okay, well, just to give a little brief picture, it's a 3-year certificate program. We meet 3 times a year. Each one runs from Wednesday afternoon to Sunday around noontime. This time we're offering them in Kimberton, Pennsylvania, and outside of Sauk Center in Minnesota. And it's a wonderful program, I can tell you, and I would highly recommend that you seriously consider joining it. The relationality is amazing. I graduated in March of 2017 and still have an extremely close relationship with my cohort that I went through the program with, and we are constantly sharing information, doing study groups. Yeah, and I would also say, David, don't blush, that we have extraordinary presenters, Dr. Roberta Nelson, Dr. James Dyson, and Dr. David Tresemer. So, and we will have eurythmy, we have painting, we have pastel drawing, we have spatial dynamics. We are learning all of this, sharing it together, using many modalities. So it's not just lecture for sure. It's a wide variety of experiences. So you really get it into you, body, soul, and spirit.
We are interested in a range of people because we found this to be so mutually supportive. So on the one hand, we have licensed professional psychologists and counseling psychologists. And for them, we provide CEs, continuing education units, which is great because it satisfies the requirements for some of those licenses. And if you're in that system, you know it's a mess, it's a chaos. But for some, we do. We're actually through NBCC. If you know what NBCC means, or if you're in this zone, if you know what NBCC means, then you know that that's adequate for your particular CE requirements. We also have people who are life coaches, social workers, corrections officers, that was great, and people who are in education, Waldorf education, mainstream education. So we have people, and then we have people come for personal development. It is shocking to us the degree to which you can now get a counseling psychology master's degree entirely online without contacting other human beings. It's true you need to develop a skill to talk to people over the phone or via computer, but that's not how you learn, because you actually need to jump over the distance. But these are skills that aren't taught, and you need to learn them. See, what else about that? We start in April of 2018. We also have, that's seminar 1. If for some reason you can only come in seminar 2, that's possible, that's in July. But then we lock it in. So that's a closed group, because that's when the power of the group cohesiveness and what they share together is such a strong feature that we actually close the group after seminar number 2. But you can take number 1 to kind of check it out. You're not committed at that point. Okay, so I wonder if there are questions that you have. You can certainly go to the bottom of your screen, type them in, and they will come to both Christine and myself. Otherwise, we will make this webinar available for people to look at, and you can, of course, ask questions by contacting our administrator through the website when questions arise. There's quite a bit at the website, quite a bit more information, including the entire curriculum for all 9 seminars, to which we adhere as best we can, partly because we have to be aware of what's cooking in the moment, and that can actually lead us this way or that way in terms of emphasis. It's not a canned curriculum, and it can't be, because we're dealing with soul, we're dealing with spirit. We're not dealing with a mechanics problem. Good, I see no questions. Anything else you would like to say, Christine?
Just want to say thank you very much, David, for the opportunity to be able to speak about this extraordinary program and how it's changed how I work with my clients. I've been doing this for a decade, and it's really changed the way I work with clients.
Okay, good. I just got 2 prompts, one from chat, one from Q&A, which are actually really helpful. One was from, I can't tell. Okay, no, oh, here it is. What does the certification allow someone to do? Well, in the world of anthroposophy, which is for some people is their entire world, and for some people is a minority of their world, or maybe they never even heard of it. In the world of anthroposophy, which has its center in Dornach, Switzerland, our training is linked actually to the medical section, and we have just received recognition from the International Federation of Anthroposophic Psychology Associations, which is based in Switzerland and meets every 2 years in England. And so that's a big deal for us within the world of anthroposophy, also within the medical section, because our approach is through an expanded and alive version of what medicine truly means. And that's coming from the tradition of anthroposophy. So we are accepted, we've got this line into the central organization in Dornach through the medical section, and we've been accepted to IFAPA. In the United States, we've just been accepted to, can I do it? The Association for Anthroposophic Medicines and Therapies in America, AAMTA. And we are working with both. We've just been accepted as a group of doing medicines and therapies in America in an anthroposophic mode. So that the certification then basically says you've been through this group. And in IFAPA, the international one, there are 10 schools around the world. A certification from AAP means you've got a piece of paper that actually is a calling card to groups of people around the world who have done similar kinds of trainings in other countries. And it is fantastic, the international relationships that are occurring because of this common interest in anthroposophic psychology. All right, there was another one. Do you study mainstream subjects? Yes, that's that streaming we talked about, the combining, the bridging between, on the one hand, the DSM and all that it represents, which is mainstream understandings of psychology and dysfunction and treatment. And on the other hand, a very spiritual orientation to what it means to be a human being. So we are very interested in making those go together. In anthroposophic psychology, we have to learn how to speak 2 languages. One is the language of soul and spirit within anthroposophy. These are really helpful terms. And we have to learn how to speak mainstream at the same time, because we're not suggesting people go out after our training and start talking to people about, well, the etheric body's doing this, the astral body's doing that. If they don't have that language background, it's useless, and they're not going to look at you in a very favorable light. However, it is so helpful, we found, to evaluating a case, whether it's your niece or nephew, or if it's a client you have in a professional way. If you have these frameworks, what I call 4-fold, 3-fold, 7-fold, these frameworks are so helpful in assisting you with your work as a relational human being or as a professional. Any comments, Christine?
Yeah, I'd like to add something to that if I could. I think it's really important to understand that mainstream seems to be toward making your symptoms go away, making you feel better, and learning coping skills, if we're talking about the psychological realm. And Anthroposophic psychology is about understanding the purpose of human life and helping somebody heal, actually heal from the traumas of the past without drugs, without, you know, just kind of zoning out coping skills, whatever, you know, do this, do that, it'll make you feel better. And it's all about helping each individual human being get clear of what's stopping them from achieving their destiny, why they even chose to come in the first place. That's the goal. So we need to know what mainstream practices are doing, and we need to take the best of what's been offered. There's sure plenty of things that can be helpful, plenty of ways of looking at things that can be helpful. But we're really looking for a different outcome. It's not just making life bearable. It's freeing oneself, really healing and freeing oneself in order to achieve one's destiny. And I'd like to take answer further the question that came in on this chat. Would one need a basic license beyond the certification in order to have a practice in anthroposophical counseling? I think that depends on where you're practicing and what the licensing requirements are. I live in Pennsylvania. I've been doing life coaching for over a decade. I now include on my business cards and on my website and everything, certified anthroposophic counselor. I do not have a license because life coaching is not licensed in the state of in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. I think it depends on where you live and whether or not you can call yourself, you know, legally a counselor. So I think you just have to check that out where it is you live.
Differs state by state for sure.
Yeah.
I love this next one. This next question, how do you establish with the client what his or her destiny is? It relates to actually the previous question.
Yeah.
What role does meditation play with the counselor and client? So we've investigated, we've asked the question, who am I? And who am I leads to, well, who are you? And these are questions that aren't actually meant to be answered. They're meant to be asked repeatedly, deeper and deeper and deeper in the questioning. And when you do that, anytime you actually get a finality or a model, it might serve you temporarily, but it's meant to then dissolve and come away so that you can ask the same question more deeply. When you discover just how extraordinary the human being is, each individual and humanity in general, you realize that the questioning itself is the dynamic movement that will take you into greater and greater realms. One more comment on that, actually. It's interesting, the whole field of, you know, how do you help find a person's destiny? The whole field, some people don't know this, but the whole field of counseling psychology began as vocational counseling. People saying, well, I mean, I don't know, what am I supposed to be a fireman or a policeman or a shop owner, or who am I and what is my vocation? These are very high questions. These are deep, deep, important questions. And they're ones meant to be wrestled with and worked with. And you're not going to give anybody a sense of destiny, but you can help lead them to it. Comments, Christine?
Yeah, I would say that when I use that term, helping them to find their destiny, what I'm meaning is you clear up the debris. You help them forge a path that is right for them. They're going to develop this path. I'm not going to tell them what to do, but we're going to explore what are all the things that are shame and anger and guilt and all these different aspects of things that have tangled them up in the weeds and keep them falling flat on their faces in different areas of their lives perhaps. And you end up, they end up freeing themselves from things that hold them back. Whatever the fears are, whatever the misconceptions are, whatever the wrong information they took in from childhood onward, so that they can look at their lives and determine what it is that they feel that they are here to accomplish. So it may be that somebody comes to me, and you peel away the layers over a course of time, and they suddenly say, I've always wanted to be an artist, but I was told I was no good. My second grade teacher said I was lousy, whatever. And, you begin to explore that with them. Maybe that is what they're supposed to be. That's up to them. It's my job to help ask questions and help them look at things from a different perspective so they can figure it out.
Yeah. So we emphasize expanding your understanding of yourself and of the human being in a way that's not prone to fantasy. And that's one of the main functions of a programmatic, repeated approach to anthroposophic psychology. You've probably all been in weekends where you said at the end of the weekend, this has changed my life. And then a month later, 6 weeks later, thought back, oh, yeah, my life seems to be the same. And that's one of the privileges of working over a 3-year period and having these seminar and then in between, and then seminar and in between. It really is helpful to build that over time. What is your complicated, debris-strewn path in this lifetime, and how to sort it out? And you need to be able to do that for yourself before you can really help other people.
We need to answer the question about meditation.
Good.
So I would say that meditation is a personal choice. We have many kinds of meditations that are available if someone finds that that is going to be helpful to them. We recommend that people do have a meditative practice, that it's always helpful to any human being, we believe, to have a meditative practice. And it's something that I certainly suggest to my clients, that they would consider doing a meditative practice on a regular basis. And I can offer them different suggestions of what they might like to do.
Okay, one more question, and then I think we need to wrap up. A new question came in. It's a good one. Can you distinguish the freedom from symptoms resulting from conventional psychology versus freedom experienced resulting from anthroposophic psychology? When I went recently to the American Counseling Association annual meeting, and it's one of these things, there are 50,000 people who belong to the American Counseling Association as counselors, and the conference has 5,000 of those people. Lots and lots of young people. A lot of young people interested in, and the thirst for, the research that's presented is fantastic. There are really well-known methods for reducing symptoms and for people to feel less anxious and less everything in terms of the symptoms. And the people that I spoke with, so I was there, 5 days, and are so interested in what the researchers don't dare talk about. So the presenters don't talk about it. The people attending, these young people, they're looking for meaning. The researchers don't dare speak about it. They will only talk about meaning as a social construct yeah, I won't go into it. But it's seen as a mental structure rather than something that's true and deep and more important than anything. I think that it's a struggle that we're experiencing more and more as materialistic science is really clamping down on all the behavioral sciences and all the health sciences. And we really need to work with that. There's such important books just coming out. The Johann Hari book on depression, I've forgotten the name of it, just came out, on the cure for depression.
Lost Connections.
Lost Connections is actually about social interaction, far more important, and purpose, a sense of purpose, far more important than the antidepressant drugs, which are a dead end. And all the Robert Whittaker work on the overdrugging of America. We have to know that language as well, because at times all those interventions, including medical, pharmaceutical interventions, are appropriate. So we have to work that line at all times. As you explore, who am I? The first question, and it's the last question. It's the question that you ask in between repeatedly. Who am I? What is this consciousness that's come into my human being? It's not explained by Darwinism, I'll tell you. So that's where we go. We want to open those portals, and amazing things then come through. Amazing insights, amazing interconnections with other people, and with the spiritual beings that I showed on one of my slides. All right, now we need to stop. Thanks, everybody, for your attention, and hopefully we'll hear from you more later.